Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I've got something fun that I want to do with you guys. So imagine that you're scrolling through Instagram and you see this awesome before and after picture of a microneedling treatment, and you scroll down to look at the caption. So it might say something like this: love these results we were able to achieve with microneedling. Look at her glow. Get in touch to book with me. That's a pretty normal caption, right? That's something that you can tell someone just kind of right off the cuff. Are you going to remember that? That's my question to you. Is that something like the picture is definitely going to capture your attention, but I don't know if that would be enough to really persuade me to get in touch. So get in touch to book with me. What does that mean? Through my bio, through my online booking system, it's not really going to persuade someone, in my opinion, to take that extra step to book the appointment. Now, let's say that you saw that exact same awesome before and after picture, but the caption was a little bit different. Let's say that the caption read like this: when this client first came in to see me, she made it clear she had used every cream and treatment under the sun, and she was skeptical that microneedling could help her heal her acne scarring. She was fed up with throwing money down the drain and feeling her confidence slip away with it. After explaining how microneedling works to boost production of your own collagen to plump, smooth, and firm the skin, and thus fill in the crater-like scars left from years of cystic acne, as well as even out her skin's texture, she took the leap, and 9 months later, here we are. The saying goes, nothing worth having happens overnight. And it's true with microneedling. For results like this, it took time and consistency, but the wait and the work is so worth it to see her glow from the inside out. If you're struggling with skin confidence and ready to heal your skin for good, let's chat and see if you'd be a good fit for microneedling. Send me a DM or book a consult via the link in my profile. So, don't you think that longer caption, sure, it's a lot longer. It's going to take a lot more work to write something like that. But don't you think that is more compelling, that's more motivating for you to actually take action as the consumer, right? To send a DM or to book a consult via the link in profile. You're getting, the pictures are the same. The results are the same. What's different is that one caption uses storytelling and the other caption does not. So the other caption is just kind of the shorter ones written on a whim. It's totally normal. It's what we tend to do. But if you put a little more effort and see how you can tell stories in all of your captions, you can really connect with individuals. You can connect with people on a much deeper level. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's podcast episode. So I brought my good friend, Celinne Da Costa. She's also in my mastermind. So we've gotten to know each other over the past couple months. And she's a storytelling coach. And when I say storytelling coach, like what the heck is that, right? Yeah, but Celinne has been featured in Entrepreneur, in Forbes, in Huffington Post, in BuzzFeed, in Business Insider, and so many more big magazines and websites. So she knows what she's doing, and she made a conscious choice to live her life like a story. Celinne has now over 60,000 followers on social media, and she's done that. She's built that audience. She's made this impact by telling her own stories all through social media. So I brought her on because I wanted her to share some of her tips and insights for our estheticians to help you create more compelling captions so that you can connect with your clients on a deeper level. So be sure to stay tuned This is an awesome episode. We laugh. We have a lot of fun together. Celine is just a real firefly. She's an awesome, awesome girl and such an adventurous spirit. And she's got a lot of amazing insights and a lot of great stories. So listen in. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want to keep the conversation going, be sure to head on over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. Tag me. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your questions. And without further ado, let's go ahead and play that episode. All right, Celine, thank you so much for being on the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So you are a world traveler. You have yeah.
I would say so.
And your story, you are known as a storytelling branding expert. And I loved, getting to know you in our mastermind and knowing like you decided to live your life like a story. And you're really just like owning that and traveling. Like how many countries have you been to?
I'm about to hit 61.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I think that's like everyone has this dream of, oh, I want to travel. I want to do that. And then you just did it and took action. So
yes, I did.
Let me just pat myself on the back for that one. So for those of you, in the spa world, you have a very big social media following. You teach a lot to entrepreneurs about finding their story and using their story and integrating that into their business and how they can use that to create deeper connections with their clients. I wanted you to come on to talk about that with spa, because in spa, something that estheticians really struggle with is feeling pushy, feeling salesy, not wanting to be overly promotional with their products or services. Spa estheticians and spa is a very like caregiving, nurturing type of person. And I think telling stories and telling your story, which each of us have a story, right? Mm-hmm. Is such a powerful way to connect. And so I wanted to just hear some of your insights, some of your tips of how do you help your clients to pull their own stories out? Some people will say, I don't have anything interesting about me. I haven't been to 61 countries, Mm-hmm. Where do you start?
Well, that's a big loaded question, which I will attempt to answer for you. So with a lot of clients, and you're right, you really hit the nail on the head that a lot of people, they come to me and they're either in two camps. They're in the camp of, well, I don't have an interesting story, or I don't have stories to tell. I don't know how to tell stories. Or they're fall in the place of, oh my God, my story is amazing, but I have no idea how to tell it or how to channel it in a way that's relevant to my business. I have all these ideas and they're scattered everywhere. Like, how do I turn this into one cohesive story? So with both of these camps, like regardless of which you fall into, the problem is that you have all these stories inside of your head and you either don't know how to organize them into a cohesive narrative that is actually working for you, an engine that's running for you, or you don't see the value in the stories that you hold. And so with clients that come to me and they're really struggling with expressing themselves, the first thing that I notice is this lack of looking within. Which I know is like, in the business world, a lot of people are like, what? Well, like, what about like strategy? And what about like sales funnels? And what about like ROI, right? But before you even get to that point where you're looking at these things, you need to understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing. And the reason that disconnect between being able to tell your story and doing it in a way that is actually serving your business is because you don't understand why your story is actually incredibly relevant for your business. Because there's no question about it, Daniela, storytelling has been proven over and over again to generate results. Right. So just to throw a few points at you, it's 22 times more memorable than facts. And again, this isn't like theory. This is like actual scientific data. It's 22 times more memorable than facts. Harvard has proved that 95% of our purchasing decisions are actually subconscious. We buy with emotion and we justify with logic. And it's also been proven that companies that have a vision, that have a purpose and convey that purpose, they outperform their counterparts who don't do that by the statistic was in profit was 750 times and a stock factor of 12 times. So I could keep on going with these facts, but I'm not going to bore you because I want to wrap this in a story, right? So the point is storytelling works. And that is something that we don't even have to be thinking about when it comes to business. But now when you're thinking to yourself, how is it that I go ahead and tell your story? Well, it's a matter of understanding why you're doing what you're doing, which is going to be challenging. And that's why not everyone is differentiating themselves in the market. And what is the vision? What is it that you're looking to create with your business and for whom? And these are the questions that people who are struggling with a story are not answering, because if they understood the bigger fire that was driving them, their big why, and if they understood what sort of transformation they're actually creating in people's lives and for whom, it would be no question that you have to share that story. Because if you know,
let me interject here for a second, because we have a program called Post with Purpose, and it's about, creating social media systems. We're very systems based. That's what I teach a lot in my business. And part of the exercise was figuring out your why. And something that came up was there's a difference between why you started your business, right? You want freedom, you want flexibility, you want, the ability to choose what services and products you're going to carry, so on. But then there's also the why you do what you do, why you choose to help women or acne or anti-aging or lashes, like whatever niche you're doing or whatever type of, what drives you day by day. So when we're looking at our stories, specifically for spa or for business owners, I imagine it's the same for any business owner, that they have a kind of why they started their business and then why they do what they do.
Yes.
Does the story that they're telling go with, what why does it go with? Does it go with the why they wanted freedom, so they started this business? Or is it like, we want to impact the lives of women and make them feel more confident. And we do that by helping them have beautiful skin.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because one of the exercises that I run my clients through is finding their deeper why. And that why of, I want freedom and I want flexibility and I want this and I want that. That's actually a more superficial version of like your real why. So it would actually be a few layers above, because when it comes to like freedom and flexibility and money, that's a universal truth. Like it's like a human insight that find me people that are in this business and don't want that. Right? It's something that really ties us all together. It's why we became entrepreneurs, most of us, to begin with. So that why is important in terms of understanding why you can't go back to corporate, or why you can't do anything but what it is that you're doing. But it's not enough for me as a consumer to understand why you're the only one for me. And that is where you dig deeper and you're like, well, why is that important? And why is that important? And why is that important? And you dig down through the layers and you actually understand that there's that human truth and then there's your truth. There's something inside of you that at one point snapped, that at one time just flipped over its own head and was like, you know what? This is what I'm dedicating my life to, or like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is why I get up and I do what I do every morning. And that thing is very much related to your past experiences, to your story, like literally to your life story and all the moments that have brought you to where you are today. When you actually find the pattern that ties them together, the string that ties all the pearls together, that is your why. And that is what you should be doing to tell your story around. Because yes, you can tell stories around freedom and making lots of money and how important it is. And they may be effective and you can sell from them. But if you really want to hit your audience like in the heart and really just grab them, you need to go deeper than that and speak to them in a way that is relatable and very uniquely you, because 1,001 brands that are offering similar services than you are talking about that stuff, but nobody can talk about your why as intelligently and passionately as you can.
Mm-hmm. So, for someone like, I'm just going to use myself as an example here, and go back to the acne example. So before I started my business and I was working, in different med spas, and I always had a special place in my heart for acne because I had acne when I was a teenager, I was like in my early, like 19, 20, right, around that time. And I understood the emotional aspects of it and how much deeper it can be than just, when someone looks at you and they see a pimple, it's like, it affects your confidence, it affects how you show up in the world. And so I always had a very special place in my heart for acne clients. So if I were a practicing esthetician or a spa owner, I would be talking a lot about my experience as acne. Mm-hmm. Is having acne? Is that what you're saying? Like really going through and sharing like what it was like when I had acne, how I overcame it, how much more confident I feel now, the different types of things or are you talking on even a deeper level of creating a space where, just going like wider than something that's like so specific?
Mm-hmm. So there's two ways to go about it. The first is, like you said, creating a space for being somebody who understands how terribly painful it is to have something that's on your body that you don't know how to control. And like, it's affecting your daily life and it's affecting who you are as a human being. So when it comes to your brand, and this is a brand choice, right? Because one of the directions you could go is you could brand yourself as like acne focused esthetician, in which case like your niche, like your zone of genius is acne, and you would be able to really hone in on that and just create like a rabid following of people who have struggled with acne, and you offer like that's your market space, and you could tell so many stories around your acne and your journey with it, and just really just nudge yourself in that space, which is also very highly profitable for you to find that niche and for you to just run with it. And because you have gone through it yourself, one of the things I would say is like you can only take your clients as far as you have gone, and so for you to be able to have that experience yourself would position you as a really powerful like authority figure, and also from an emotional standpoint, somebody who just freaking gets it, right? So that's one way to go about it. But then I know that there's people that are like, well, I'm really passionate, like I went through acne as a kid, but I want to broaden it. I want to do more. How do I connect to people outside of acne? And I see this in your industry, but it's pretty much in every industry where I have clients be like, oh, I was in a domestic abuse relationship. What does that have to do with real estate? Right. And that's something that actually was a problem. It was something that I dealt with a client. And it's like, yeah, it's not like you going into your real estate marketing and you could talk about the domestic abuse, but it's not about like drilling that over people's head. But what about you understanding, like, what about the experience, that traumatic experience that you had has made you somebody who listens, has made you somebody who holds space, has made you somebody who stands up to like BS and stands up for herself, right? Like these qualities that you've experienced because of what you've gone through actually translate over into, real estate business. Or again, like with you and acne, it's like if somebody's coming to you and their problem is not acne whatsoever, but it's like psoriasis or like something else that's just really on their face or like on their body or inside, like you get what it's like to feel alienated, to feel alone, to feel, so your story is going to make sense as long as you're framing it, not to be about, oh, you have acne. I get it. I did too, because that's a different strategy. But rather, hey, I get what it's like to like want to be seen and not get to do that. I get what it's like to lay on layers of makeup because you're so scared of people seeing you. Like that is a point of connection. It's that shared experience that doesn't have to translate into like, you can only connect with people who have acne, but rather you can connect with people who understand what it's like to look in the mirror and feel ugly, or that understand what it's like to be afraid to leave the house because of the way that they look or how they're feeling. And that's how you take your specific experience and cast a broader net to really just connect with people's hearts and show them that you get it. Even if you yourself weren't in their exact shoes, you shared a human experience that they also have gone through.
So this question is a little bit off topic, but what you were talking about really brought this up for me when you said the domestic abuse situation and she's a real estate agent. You have, what are you, like 60,000 or some crazy number of followers on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, like a huge amount. How do you draw the line between what story is too personal, and because there's an integrity piece too, right? You don't want to use a story specifically to sell. You want to use a story to connect, right? To find connections with your right people. But where's the line? Like, how do you know what's oversharing? How do you know? Is that just an individual choice per person? Or
no, the line is, are you indulging your ego or are you serving? And there are some things, the way that I perceive it, because as you have seen, I share a lot, maybe more than the average person. And I built my brand around being really transparent and raw. That is what I built my brand around. And for me, when I'm posting things, the question I'm asking myself is, am I sharing the story to vent? Am I sharing the story just so I can make myself feel better? Am I sharing the story so that like people can think how cool I am or feel bad for me or feel sorry? And right? You could tell yourself, no, I'm not, but you freaking know, right? And this is also a matter of getting in touch with your intuition and peeling back these layers and getting in touch with your why. And that's why you do that work to begin with, so you have that touch with yourself. And for me, the question is, even today, actually, it's funny, I shared a very vulnerable story on Instagram today, being like, honestly, I'm so stressed out and I'm on the verge of burnout. But it's not about, hey, can you guys feel sorry for me? But it's like, what can someone who's reading this, how can they relate to this experience? How can this experience make them feel that they're not alone? And how can this experience lead them to take action in their life? And that is the filter through which I share my stories. And when I ask myself this, like, what is the value I'm providing? Where am I leading them to? Because one of the big things, like 101 with storytelling that I teach my clients, it's always start with the end point. What is the end? When you finish the story, what is the result you want? What is like the connection you want? What is the value you want to have given? What do you want someone to walk away with? So you reverse engineer your story from there. And when I have that filter in my mind, then I'm asking myself these questions. I'm like, you know what? Yes, I am talking about something really personal. How can I turn this into a lesson? How can I ask them the questions that they need to be asking themselves? So if it's a post about me being stressed out and burned out and needing help, it's about, hey, if you need help, ask someone, tag somebody who needs help, or like, actually don't be ashamed to ask for help. Look, I'm doing it right now. Let me show you. So it's really about being the example and practicing what you preach, because a lot of people, they talk about what you should buy, what you should do, how you should act, or life of freedom, life of money. But when push comes to shove, they're not showing us, they're just talking about their values. They're not showing us their values. So when you put your skin in the game and you show people your stories, like, again, like for example, the domestic abuse or like the acne, it's about how you tell the story. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And when you put it through the filter of how can this serve people who need to hear this message right now, so they know they're not alone, so they know they have support and I will be there to support them, then the next question is, how could I not tell the story? How could I keep this from people?
Yeah, it's, I kind of struggle with that personally because I tend to be a very private person. And I mean, I'm always on social media or in my Facebook groups and stuff like that, and anything business, like I'm always talking about that. But when it gets into really personal stuff, that part of my life stays relatively private. And as you know, in March, I had a miscarriage, and I felt somehow, I just felt really compelled to post something about it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the only time that I talked about it. I did one post, but I remember feeling as me, someone being analytical and, knowing this happens to 1 in 4 women. It's not, because you worry like, did I drink a cup of coffee? Did I have a glass of wine? Did I do something before I knew I was pregnant or whatever? And it's so, so common and it's just never talked about. And so I did that post and I just said, 5 weeks ago, I had a miscarriage, I told the story, but I went back to, this is normal. This happens to 1 in 4 women. If this is something that you've experienced, you're not alone. And I had more comments and engagement on that post than I think anything else I've ever posted on social media. And I was just thinking about that, as you said, like, you're going to the end point, you're doing it to help people. And I didn't get into the pain that I felt or the things that I was struggling with personally. I just said, this is what happened. You're not alone. It's totally normal. And even that much, people still connected with it on such a deep level. So it really is a powerful thing.
Yes.
Stories don't always have to be these tragic, like,
no,
I had a miscarriage. It can be happy, exciting, wonderful things, because life is, I'm sure you'll agree, life is full of stories. There's stories every single day, of what's going on. It's just how you frame it and how you tell it to get into your business. So when you're looking at social media and kind of creating your post, do you put like a full story in every single post that you do?
Well, I'm a storytelling coach, so yes, right? But I mean, that's something that it's almost like, if you're a business coach, you talk about business, right? You really
for a brick and mortar, for a spa. And so for people that, you work with real estate agents, you work with like probably all different types of business.
Oh yeah.
And so for brick and mortar, there's certain, if someone has a testimonial post, or if someone has like a behind the scenes post, or a, like an educational post, are you still weaving in your personal stories into all of these different types of posts?
Not necessarily your personal story, but for example, one of the things that drives me mad is when people just copy and paste testimonials of clients. When this is a perfect chance to tell a real story about that person. So it doesn't always have to be about you. And I know that's something that a lot of people feel self-conscious about. And again, it's a big thing for people. Oh, I don't want to just talk about myself. I don't want to seem like shallow. I don't want to feel like I'm cocky or I'm just like sitting there like boring people with my story. And the solution for that is, well, it isn't about you. You're right. Like, it's not just about you. And I would be concerned if in your everyday conversations, you're just talking about yourself all the time. Right. So it's even, again, look at it as like, through the lens of everyday conversations. Are you sitting there talking about your story all the time? You also tell other people's stories. You tell people stories of icons. You tell stories of movies, of things that are going on around you. So for example, when it comes to posting testimonials, this is the perfect chance to like tell a heartfelt story about someone else and what they struggled with, of course, with their permission and with their boundaries, but to tell heartwarming little stories about your client, or even things like I posted the other day about Jacqueline Kennedy, and how her pearls, her fake,
that one.
Yeah, fake pearls that she bought for like $60, sold after she passed away at an auction for $200,000. And what people were doing, they were buying the story. They were buying being part of history. They were buying the American dream. And that's the power of story. It can skyrocket your value, like without like any cap, without any ceiling. So I told a story that wasn't about me, that was about someone else. Or another time, do you watch Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Remember one of the semi-last episode when Tyrion said, like, it's not what ties people together. It's not wars. It's not enemies. It's not money. It's not family. It's stories. Oh my God. I had a field day with that one. Like, I put it in my email marketing. I put it into, so every time there's something, or that HBO documentary about that lady, like Elizabeth something, that she created a multi-billion-dollar company, and it was all
Elizabeth Holmes.
Her story, hello, that's how she pulled out. So as a storytelling coach, yes, I'm telling stories about myself and my life and what I'm going through, but I'm also telling stories about clients, like the one I just mentioned with the real estate, of course, protecting their privacy. I'm telling stories about pop culture and what happened in media. Like everything is an opportunity for you to tell a story. And the same way, I mean, I would guess you have to, again, part of this is strategy. It is creativity. They're not just going to plop from the sky, these stories, but part of it is going through your everyday and observing your business and your surroundings with this lens of how are these pieces pulling into my story. So to answer your question, Daniela, about do I weave story into everything, I would say that the more you weave story into what you do, the more successful the more that your content's going to get through, the more you're going to connect with your audience, the more you are going to build a bigger than life brand around yourself, because you are going beyond facts and data and your expertise, but you're creating an emotional, long lasting connection with your audience, and you're helping them feel over and over again. And they're not going to remember what you say. They're going to remember what you feel. And to wrap that up, a lot of clients are like, oh, well, I can't write, Celine, I can't write, big, long stories on Instagram every single day like you do. Like, oh, no, I can't do this. Like, what I tell them is stories don't necessarily have to mean length. And actually, the shortest story ever told is only 6 words. Baby shoes on sale, never used. That's a story. Right? So your story can be a few words. It can be a few sentences. If you like to go if you're going to do long form, my only recommendation is that you are very careful that every step of the story is giving them value, because there's a big difference between ranting and telling a story in all its pieces. You can always expand. So it's a matter of personal taste. It's a matter of strategy and what type of story you're telling, how simple or complex it is. But if you're sitting here being like, oh, I can't tell, I'm not a good storyteller, or it's in our DNA, for God's sake. Like, we are genetically wired to tell stories. You just have to tap into that.
Okay. So to wrap up, what is one piece of advice for the person who doesn't think they have stories, and one piece of advice for the person who has an amazing story but doesn't know how to weave it into their business?
Okay. So one piece of advice for the person who doesn't think she or he has a story. This isn't an advice, but it's a prequel to the advice. You do. I'm telling you, I'm like 99.9, unless you've been living your entire life like in a bubble, like Bubble Boy, like you have a story. It's for sure there. So the very, very first step to that is to write it out. And that's, I know it sounds so silly and a lot of people don't freaking do it. And this is really the first step. Is you're sitting there being like, oh, I don't have a story. And my question for you, have you ever tried to sit down with a piece of paper and literally write out your story and look at it in physical form, instead of having it be a bunch of tangled thoughts in your head, tangled abstract thoughts in your head? To actually write out everything in physical form and look at it, read it, and be like, what are the patterns here? Is the pattern? Is it one of resilience? Is it one of even things? It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be the hero, but it can even be a pattern of, wow, my whole life I haven't done anything and now I am, right? It can be, there's all these patterns that consistently in your life, you've always had the same essence, and you've always been either really resilient or really stubborn or really something. Look for the pattern and the strings that are tying this together, like the events that are forming the pattern are probably the big puzzle pieces of your story. You just have to actually search for them and put them together in a creative way. For the person who does have an amazing story, an impactful story, and they're scattered all over the place, the first thing I'd ask is, why do you believe your story is amazing? Because a lot of people come and they have an amazing story, and sometimes they do, and they're just like, oh my God, and I did this and I did this and I did that. And I'm like, cool, but why would I care? Right? I mean, yes, I think I have an interesting story, and I have people pitching me all the time being like, oh my God, look at my story. It's so amazing. And I'm like, cool. And you provided me no value as the reader. That it sounds awesome. You sound like a really cool person, but I know a lot of cool people who really cool stories, and they're connecting with me way better than you. So when you're thinking about how amazing or cool your story is, what I would take a step back and ask yourself, well, me having the story, how can this actually serve my audience? How can this provide them like tons of value that isn't just me tooting my own horn? And what pieces of this cool story are the most important to highlight? Because maybe you've had like the coolest life ever, but it's not relevant to talk about all of it, but only the pieces that are connected to your business. Does that make sense?
It does. And awesome advice. Now I'm like thinking about my stories. I'm like,
I could see your eyes just like rolling over like, what? Oh my God.
Okay. So I know that a lot of our listeners are going to want to continue to follow you, find your stories, read your stories. Where can they connect with you, follow you, learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah. So I made it very easy for anyone to connect with me. On my handles on Instagram, which you should totally follow me because it's freaking awesome. Humble brag. And Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, all the things. It's at Celinne Da Costa. So CELINNE DACOSTA. My name has 2 N's. I don't know why. Ask my mom. And my website is CelinneDaCosta.com. Isn't that so easy?
Very easy. And we'll be sure to include all of those links below the show notes. And you also have a storytelling group coaching program coming up. Isn't that right?
Yes, I do. Can I tell you a little bit about it? It's really exciting.
Please do.
So it is called Master Your Story. And this is all about mastering your story. Duh, I made it very easy to understand, but it's about branding yourself with confidence, with clarity, with courage, about finding your authentic voice. And this 8-week group program is designed to help you tell your story with unwavering confidence so that you can take your business to the next level, even if you don't know where to start. So this is perfect for seasoned business owners and newbies who are starting out, because what I will be essentially doing is taking you from like point zero of, oh my God, even if those 2 groups, it's, oh my God, I don't have a story, or my story is not interesting, to, oh my God, I'm all over the place. So basically what I was talking about, your why, your vision, your audience, your core values, I walk you through that internal story. How do you create your internal story and get really clear on what it is that you do and why, who you're serving, what the transformation is. Because again, if you're going to tell a story, you start with the end. And this is the end, is understanding where you're leading people and who you're leading and why you're leading them. And then I walk you through the unwritten rules of storytelling. So there's all these trade secrets used by Hollywood screenplay writers and even Shakespeare that people just don't know about. They're not aware of it because it's like that stuff that you used to learn like in literature class and your eyes glazed over. So I've taken that, I've made it modern and turned it into a 5-step process that every entrepreneur needs to know in order for them to write, to create a unique hero's journey. So how do they present their personal story in a way that shows their audience that they're the hero and the guide, and how to identify your superpower so that you can position yourself in the market and have like dominate that niche and essentially make yourself look like the sharp, like unique little magician that you are, little unicorn. And then walking you through how to create content so that people buy from you. So now that you have your story, what's next? How do you show up on social media? How do you create on your website? And I walk you through creating a limitless bank of stories so that the whole like, oh my God, creating content is such a struggle. I don't know what stories to tell. We're going to toss that one right out the window. And lastly, to the end, which is to how to, now that you have the story and it's powerful and you're talking about it on your channels, how do you get it out there? How do you get it in the media? How do you get people paying attention to you? How do you get in front of influencers? And how do you get in front of your ideal clients so that your story is consistently driving you business and selling for you? And then to top it all off, we have some incredible guest speakers to teach you about how to manifest your story. So mindset training, how to use your story in Facebook ads, like strategic storytelling, how to pitch. So Linnea from Celinnes is going to be doing a training on how to pitch.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. She's amazing.
Yes. And how to use storytelling to sell with confidence from Lisa, who does multiple 6-figure months. So she's going to talk about storytelling as well. And we have a YouTube celebrity, an Instagram celebrity coming in to talk about Instagram for entrepreneurs. So it is action freaking packed, and walking away from this group program, you're going to get everything you need to go out there and just slay your story and use it as a tool, an engine for your business.
An opportunity to learn from the best. Exciting.
Yes. And I'm like gloating about it like it's like my little child. Like, oh my God, so excited. Come join. Yes. So that's a good sign, right?
Very good. So we'll include all the links. Be sure to follow Celinne. Be sure to check out her program. Tag us on Instagram if you like this episode. And be sure, if you want to keep the conversation going, head over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. We can answer your questions in there. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you, guys.